Welcome back, yogis. Welcome to week 4 of Ashtanga practice. And in week 4, we are adding in Utthita Trikonasana, your outstretched triangle pose, and the twist, Parivritta Trikonasana. Then for the finishing sequence, after you've done shoulder stand, headstand, and you come to seated, we've started on Utthita, where we're going to add in yoga mudra and Padmasana, and then it comes to Utthita, and then you'll jump back and final pose to rest. Let's start. So triangle pose and twisting triangle pose. Generally, like I say, you've probably come from a hatha background, most of us do, vinyasa flow, and you'll know these two poses. Let's look at a bit of detail on them. Traditionally, I was taught to stand heel to arch, but that makes, you can play around with it a little bit. Otherwise, I have then consequently been told to stand heel to heel. So if you're standing with your feet there, you would just swivel the foot and it's heel to heel. So it makes that simple, that you don't have to adjust and bring this foot further forward in line. And it opens out this hip more. So you're first going to go to your right side and stretching the arms out. Lift under the armpits, relax the rib cage, strong legs. Now, what often people go, oh yeah, okay, and if you're flexible in the hamstring, you kind of use the hamstring. Instead, try this. Okay, just, if you want to learn it this way with me. Bend the knees, lift the tummy, and in this position, you'll feel that you can play around with the hips. Either this hip can come back, or this hip can come back. What we're going to try and do is center and try and open both hips as much as we can. So that the coccyx is going down and the thighs are going open. In this, and as much as you can, that thigh open. In this position also, some schools teach that the hips have to be completely square. I do promote that, but in the beginning, it might feel a little bit better just to let this hip drop in a little bit in the beginning. Okay. And then later on, how I started doing it is I was in the pose, and then I started feeling lift and rotate, lift and rotate. So I'm rotating, and I'm strengthening in the instep, inner thigh, into the hip. And opening up the side more. But be gentle. Then, also when I started yoga, there was no ways. The teacher would say, look up at your hand, and I'm like, ugh, my neck couldn't even move. So I just kept looking front. So if that need be, you can even look down, and until the spine and the neck starts to release and lengthen into, you might think, oh, okay, now I can look up. So don't stress about anything. So let's look at that. So the feet are reasonably wide, but again, it's gonna widen as you get stronger in the legs as well. And reaching down, lifting the insteps, opening the hips, reach out. So I can let it drop in a little bit, the hip, but otherwise lengthen and try and keep it open. And reach your index and middle finger if you can. So you've got two choices. If you're a little bit inflexible there, bend your knee and work towards straightening it out. That's quite a nice method. Another method is just don't go as far as that. And you lift, and you lengthen, and you reach, and you go as far as you can. So you're kind of aiming for it, but not getting there. It's okay. And hold for 5. Inhaling, come up. Exhaling. To the other side. And so forth. So we'll see that in the practice. Please, if you've got any questions, I'll try and answer as best I can. The twisting triangle, now this one, Parivritta Trikonasana, the hips just do all sorts of things. One lift, one down, this forward, that back. And you're trying to become more flexible in the hips so that they really can stay there, and you just lengthen your spine out of it. So let's say you can work with the right or left leg, doesn't matter. Let's say you are going to the side, but But generally, the hamstring is not going to want to go over, so it goes a little bit sideways, so it's difficult to get this arm towards the little toe side. So start, if you like, with the opposite arm to your front leg, coming down to the big toes. Hug into the tummy, and then if you can, you press to elongate and open the chest and legs. And always scooping from your belly and pressing strongly down both legs. That is a nice variation, and don't think too much about the twist in the beginning, because the twist really happens from your ribcage up. You lift and you twist. So the hips are staying in place. But what we do in the beginning is we just go, and the hips are doing all these funny things. So try and think about it this way. Parivritta coming later, but you can think about it like Parivritta. You might know this pose as well. Lifting from the hip bones, strong in the legs, lift the insteps, press into the feet, and bring your hands to the floor. That's a straight line. So now I'm going to scoop the belly strong through the legs and rotate, just coming up. So the torso is doing the rotation. Because otherwise, we also find, we often push the arm too far back. So try and think like you're turning into the arm, so that the hips stay and the chest rotates into the arm, so it's just a straight line. And so it's opposite arm coming over, strong in the back leg, reach, make it a long line like you're going into Parivritta. Then you place the hand down if you can on the little toe side. And the top arm you turn, using your stomach muscles to turn into your hand so the arm doesn't distend. And this goes skew there. So I'll keep there and reach out through the arms. Okay. For some of us, that one can be a tough one, so keep gentle. Bend the front knee if need be. Okay. Let's look at what we're adding into the finishing sequence. Yoga Mudra. For Yoga Mudra, we're going to be needing a lotus pose, Padmasana. Now that might not be possible, maybe for a few years, just relax about that. You might be doing half Padmasana. So very interesting, what I've seen in my own practice is, you do the Padmasana, you do something as best you can, but it hurts. And then later on, when you're maybe the hips open, maybe the shoulders open, something changes, then all of a sudden, the position just like, it's a better position and it doesn't hurt anymore. Sometimes it just hurts because it's still not in a deep enough position. The ankles generally are known to be quite a thing for some, because it's kind of dropping like that. When you start your Padmasana, and we will do in the seated sequence, you start with Baddha Padmasana, and that's, I'm going to start with that. Try and aim the sole of the foot towards the hip. So the toes are not too, some people want to do that, putting the feet too far over, and some people want to not bring the foot over enough, because then the knees at least down, and then there's a bonus, you can just flip to lotus, but then they find that the ankles hurt. I think it's all about the flexibility in the hips. So there's one pose that only comes into series 3 that I really recommend. For those of you that do your hatha or vinyasa, you might know pigeon pose. Really, really a good glute stretch. And as the hips and the glutes get more relaxed, then you can see how that is it really, really helps in your lotus pose. Another way, if even doing your pigeon pose is not good for the knee, then lying down and doing it, is really, really nice. Okay, that's a nice glute stretch. Let's see, for those who are doing lotus, and let's see where you are. Going to try this with me. You might have warmed up, maybe not. Just be soft and go where you can. Generally in Ashtanga we do right leg first, but you might want to try both. So let's take a leg, but let's do both and see how they go. First of all, you want to protect the knee. You don't want to just, okay, so we close the knee joint. Then pick it up from there, and it's nice to pick it up from underneath so that you're kind of like promoting a gentle rotation out, like a baby. Carry it like a baby. Now I aim the sole of the foot into my heel, into my hip bone, and the heel is kind of on my colon there. Now in the beginning it might not even want to come up that far. So you just place it down wherever you can. It might hurt the thigh muscle in the beginning, you just try to relax. Then you draw your, so of course, you want to work that leg in, and people want to promote the knee down. Don't do that. Gently, if you want to, it's kind of like this hip. You can even lie back and open out that hip area. Yeah, it's got nothing to do with the knee. Is the knee sore? Something tight here. Okay, and then don't push. So after you've done that and you got that reasonably down, then as you bring this one in, you might, as you shift your weight forward, you might say, oh, that knee's down. Maybe not yet. See if you can promote it from the hip side and relax. You rotate this one out and pick it up on the opposite side. Okay. Let's try the other leg. Now, if it's not going to happen, then just go, I like the, nice, you just stay there. Don't force. If this knee's up here, put this one underneath. Yeah. Okay. So let's try the other leg. So again, I'm going to close the knee joint first. Roll it. And slide in. So my knee's not on the floor. Some people's are all a bit directly on the floor already. And then slowly, as you lean forward, it might come more down. Try and slip that one over the top. And it will get deeper and deeper with time as the hips open. So there's more inner thigh and lifting from the bandha in that position. Okay. So again, if it doesn't work, half lotus is with one foot underneath and just one leg into the lotus. And you could play around with like easy seat variation like that. Okay. So yoga mudra. Yoga mudra. Mudra is a seal, and so it is the seal of union. And we go into lotus. So let me show you if you are in lotus. Okay, two options. If you are in lotus, of course, the ultimate option would be to bind your hands behind your back. So you generally take right leg first, left leg second. Then you take the left arm first. So the top leg's arm has to bind first. You try and grab hold of the toe. Now in the beginning, it's just like, okay, how am I going to get the second one? So we lean forward and we try our best and we arch the back, we do everything we can. And then as soon as we got that foot, then this one slips out. So that's just how it goes. Okay. But if you can hold your bandha, lean forward, you can twist and see if you can wrap and grab a second foot. If not possible, you hopefully have a teacher that can help you to squeeze your elbows together. And okay, so you got your 2 feet in your hands. You inhale and then exhale into Yoga Mudra. So that was Baddha Padmasana, your bowed lotus. And then from there we go to Yoga Mudra. Exhale, folding towards and lengthening, like your Baddha Padmasana, you lengthening out, forward fold, lengthening out. Hold 1, hold for 10, 3, and keep reaching. Inhale. And then that's why you want the bandha, is because a very general thing, especially if you're not in lotus, it's better in lotus, but still, if your pelvis is quite rotatable, if that's a word, if it can rotate very easy, you might find you just want to fall on your face. So you want to hug back, lengthen out, and then, so you try and almost keep your sit bones towards the floor when you go forward, for those who need that advice. Okay, so let's see when you got, say, a half lotus. Or you could even be sitting in a normal cross-legged position. Either way, it's perfect. You can take a bind, so if you've got a lotus at height, you can just bind that footy with me, and you hold, you can cross you're trying eventually to cross your elbows, but that's a nice bind if you want to feel the bind, and then fold forward. Okay, if you're sitting in complete easy seat, that's where the pelvis tends to want to just lift, the bum lifts, and the back arches. So scoop it. Half this one's very nice because you're already still supported, and you lengthen out from this lower back. If you got your lotus, but you haven't got the bind, then you could bind the footie. You could even just grab it around the foot at first and pull it, later on around the ankle. Okay, whatever you'd like to do. And take the bind around your back. And shimmy your hands towards the feet to get more and more of your elbows towards each other, and then hold forward and down. So yeah, you've got many, many options. Okay. So now we've added lotus. After that, it will just be sitting in your Padmasana position, so don't stress if you're not in lotus. You want to hold 3 bandhas, Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, Jalandhara Bandha, and lengthen the spine. It's more energetic than it is physical, but I like to think of it as kind of hugging into the center, like you would squeeze a hose pipe, or garden hose, some people call it, and to squeeze it, and then when you release it, the water will flow through. So if I just feel down into the root, there I've got my Mula Bandha. Then the Uddiyana Bandha, I'm lifting from the navel up into the rib cage, so like a J shape, and I'm lifting. Then that continues to lengthen my spine, opening the shoulders and getting into Jalandhara Bandha, and lengthening through the back. So you're really lengthening the spine by connecting these 3 points. And a nice place to feel is where, when they are aligned, that the body can settle and the breathing, the mind stills, the body stills, and the breathing is quiet and calm, or longer. The index and middle finger, thumb and index finger touch, and the 3 fingers out, reach. In the beginning, even sitting easy seat or lotus is a little different. My elbows were bent. I couldn't understand how this pose works, so don't stress if you find something different. I don't know what happened and how it happened, but the spine gets into position, the hips get into position, the shoulders in position, then you are in, like I used to, I don't know, was it like that? Who knows? Yeah. So there, and you're opening your shoulders. So keep lengthening. And then you look down, tip of your nose, and you're into Ujjayi breathing, or soft, gentle inhale. Feeling the bandhas, exhale. And you do 10 counts. Some teachers take this very slow. Some teachers just count 10, and if you, whatever length breath you have in that, it's a bit of a self-exploration, or follow the teacher that you're with that day. So for me, the bandhas don't squeeze hard. Try and find where the body is held by the front and opening the spine for energy to flow with the breath. And then we have the Utthita, but we've learned that one a little bit. So we've learned it without the legs in lotus. Now, if you're possible, you can put in a lotus. If not possible, so just quickly show those that are in lotus. Placing your hands next to your hips like so. Your shoulders relax. Exhale down into the bandha. And then inhale, coming up and lifting. So you first lift the hips, and then if you can, you lift the knees. And that would be held for 10 breaths. Some people do 25, counting it faster. Some people do breath of fire, Kapalabhati. So depends on the teacher again. So for those who aren't in lotus, let's say you're in a half lotus, and just keep practicing. Maybe it's getting there a little bit. Let's see. You take your strap. You do need one with a D clip, so it's combined, or tighten it in some way. Take it over, you put the end that you're going to bind by, I used to put it in the middle of my thigh, but actually try and just put it on your calf, and then it starts. So it hooks the bottom leg, then it comes to a cross in front, and it hooks the bottom foot. If you had both feet under it, you hook them both at the bottom. So now I've got my binding mechanism. Go through 2 D clips, D loops, come through the second one alone, the one closest to you. And you pull it as tight as you can to get those legs bound as close to your body as you can. It's quite nice. Place your hands, again, exhale down into the lower belly, lengthen, inhale, come up and hold. Okay. So you've got a few variations there without the lotus, with a half lotus, with a no lotus, the same thing, you just bind the legs up like that. Okay. And so enjoy the practice that we're going to do now. And thank you for watching. Namaste.